So, okay, let me start this and then.
So my name is Bonnie Sachs, and I live in Palm Beach Gardens, and I actually I'm fairly new to the Akashic Records. I've just been reading the records for about 2.5 years, and if you can believe this, I've already forgotten it was you. We have similar stories that I have a friend who gave me the gift of an Akashic Record reading, and in that reading, I was so excited to find out how I was going to practice being a health coach. And from the very beginning of the reading, I got, you need to be reading the Akashic Records. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And what about health coaching? You need to be reading the Akashic Records. And every question I asked somehow came around back to the Akashic Records. So I finally got the hint and said, okay, what do I need to do? And so the message was that I needed to read the book, How to Read the Akashic Records by Linda Howe, which I read and got to the 4th chapter, and I was like, this is the thing I've been looking for. Just knew that it resonated with me, and I took one class after the other and ended up becoming a teacher, and I absolutely love it. I know I am here to teach people about the Akashic Records and teach people how to heal using the Akashic Records. And so it's just been an ongoing journey since then. And a funny little story just about Lily and I met because she came to one of my introduction classes about what the Akashic Records were, and she decided she wanted to learn to read the records, and then she joined a group where I had formed to practice teaching. And for some reason I decided to read the records of everybody in the group. I was in my own records getting information. The information that came across only for Lily was that she and I were going to be working together, and we were going to form a business together. Which, I was like, you're not going to believe this. And she's like, oh my God, I feel like we should be doing that too. And so, thus this is born. Go ahead, Lily.
Here we are.
So, I was raised in a family of metaphysicians. And so all my life, since I've, like Italians drink wine at dinner, even when you're 6 years old. In my family, it was, we would sit around dinner and we would talk about metaphysics and all this New Age stuff, which included, of course, the Akashic Records. But in my upbringing, I always was taught that the Akashic Records was not for everybody to read, that you had to have a certain level of spiritual evolution in order to be able to go into the records. It wasn't for everyone. You had to have a lot of training, like years and years and years of training, and even then, not everybody was going to be allowed to enter into the records. And so I kind of grew up with that belief, and we're going to be talking about belief systems today. I grew up with that belief, and so I never tried to read the records. I just never did, because I thought, well, I'm never going to be spiritual enough, or saintly enough, or pure enough, or educated enough. I was just like, that's not going to happen for me. But it was always something, I've known what the Akashic Records were. I've always known about them. I've very familiar with what they are and how to use the records, but I just never read them. And so one day, a few years ago, I started thinking, I really would like to read the records at some point, learn how to do that. I don't want to buy into this, that I'm not good enough to read the records. And one day, a little over a year ago, I was leafing through the Natural Awakenings magazine, and I saw this little tiny ad. It was really like the size of a business card. And it was about Akashic Records, and it caught my eye, and it was a little class that Bonnie was doing at Kulashala Yoga Center up in Jupiter. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I think I'll check that out. So I went there, and I heard Bonnie speak, and I thought, okay, well, she's saying that it's okay to read the records, so here I am. So I started working with Bonnie to learn how to read the records in accordance with teachings of Linda Howe. She's got several books on that. And what I learned was very interesting, because I started to practice theta healing modality a little over a decade ago. And what I realized as we did the work together on the records is that I've actually been going into the records since I've been doing theta healing for over a decade. I've actually been in the record environment all these years, and I just wasn't calling it that. And one of the things that Bonnie and I joke about, well, it's not really a joke, but we the Linda Howe's the the books that, and the way that she teaches going into the records is through a prayer that was channeled to her when 9/11 happened. And I'll let Bonnie tell that story here in a second because she tells it much better than I do. But that prayer is what we use to actually enter the records. And it's about the power of words and how words carry a vibration and a frequency, and there are pretty much like a code. Words are very powerful, and that's another thing that we're going to talk about today. When we talk about how we are experiencing this material world, because we are souls and spirits having an experience in a material world, and how do we thrive in that material world? And words are one of the tools that we have at our disposal that we use consciously or unconsciously, but they are creating our reality just as belief systems are. So this prayer has very powerful words in it that actually do vibrate in a certain way that opens the records for you. So, but what we've experienced is that we don't even need the prayer anymore, because we are so, just from practice, and this, and all of you can do this, just from the practice of saying this prayer and or consciously opening the records for yourself, there'll come a time when you spontaneously go into the, like it, that's how it happens. It's just spontaneous, you know. And for example, I'll do walks in the morning on the beach, and I'll think of a question that I want to ask the masters, teachers, and loved ones in the Akashic records when I open them, because I go through the ritual of opening my records when I walk on the beach. But for several weeks now, what I'm finding is that as soon as I think of the question, the answers start pouring down on me from the masters, teachers, and loved ones. And so that's interesting. But tell them the story about 9/11 and Linda's prayer.
So Linda Howe is somebody who has been practicing reading the Akashic records for a decade or more before 9/11. And what happened was the power of the trauma that happened at 9/11 actually like cracked open the ability for everybody to start accessing the information. So it was true. What Lily learned is that for the longest time, it was, the Akashic records was only available to people who had studied for a long, long time. You were studying for pretty much your entire life, and then you had access to it. But that trauma, and it was actually not just a trauma to the US, it was a trauma to the whole world, because it opened up the heart of the Akashic records and said, you know, we all kind of like were shocked by it, and so it allowed more access to the records. And that's when she got the download of information about the prayer that we recite. And it's very easy to access the records. Just a quick Akashic records, what the Akashic records are, is that it turns out that everything that is ever said, done, or thought in the world, in the universe, has a vibrational recording. Everything is recorded. And that recording is like energetically stored, and think of the Library of Congress, right? That kind of thing. And so we actually access that information, pulling that information out, and can ask questions about just about anything. It's funny because we used to say, you can't ask questions about time or
the future,
or
like
the future,
like predictions, you know, like what's going to happen with this or this or that.
And we've actually found that that's not necessarily true, but that's a whole nother story. You want to talk about 8th chakra?
Yes. So one day, Bonnie and I were talking about the records, sitting by her pool in her beautiful home, and we were just hanging out, talking about the Akashic records. And Bonnie has a book club, and where we study the records, and she also has a meetup. So it's open to the public, and everybody comes, and people come, and so we have a lot of conversations going on around the Akashic records. And as we were sitting there hanging out by Bonnie's pool, all of a sudden we started having like this notion that we needed to start a company. And Bonnie said it earlier about how she was told in the records, and we started talking about, okay, well, what would that look like, and what would a company look like that we would start together? And all of a sudden it just got downloaded to us, 8th chakra. Like, we were told that we needed to teach humanity about the 8th chakra. And most of us are familiar with the 7 chakra system. Is there anyone, I don't want to single you out because it's totally okay. A lot of people have never heard of the 7 chakras. So, but does everybody know about the 7 chakras? So most of us are somewhat familiar with the 7 chakras, and Bonnie has a background in nutrition, and I've done a lot of energy work, and again, growing up metaphysician, like to us, 7 chakras is like, we know we have a heart, we know we have a liver, we know we have a pancreas, we know we have 7 chakras, But for some people, that's not the case. But how many people have actually know that there's not just 7 chakras, we actually have like 18 chakras. And there's a discrepancy about that. Some schools of thought think there's 12 chakras, some, say there's 11, some say there's 18. So this is not an exact science, obviously. But there is an 8th chakra that is right now being activated for humanity, and we are receiving access to. Bonnie and I didn't know this. She and I never even thought about the 8th chakra. I mean, we knew there was other chakras, but neither one of us thought.
We thought it was cool because the 8th chakra is where the Akashic records lie.
But we didn't even know that when we were downloaded and told, okay, 8th chakra. So that same day by the pool, we got online to sunbiz.com and we checked out the name and we formed the 8th chakra company.
Wow. And then really since then we've just been creating this as we go along. We get information that is like, I'll say to her, I'm really getting the idea that we need to be doing more of this online and doing it more freeform. And she'll be like, yeah, I get that too. Okay, let's do that. And that's sort of how this has unfolded. So it's very fun for us.
And then we'll go into our records individually, and then later we compare notes, and we're getting like the same messages. When it comes to what our partnership is and what we're doing. And the 8th chakra company is really about helping humanity to master what it is to be human. And so the conversation that we're having today is part of that. It's about mastering what it is to be human, and there are so many aspects that we have to deal with on a daily basis in order to master what it is to be human. So that gives you a little bit of an idea, and on those sheets that we passed out, there's information there. It's our URL in there, and you can access both our contact information on there, and we're both available for readings, etc. And then the last thing before we get started on this interactive conversation is y'all are going to be participating. Hope you're ready to participate. Is talk a little bit about theta healing, because it has become a significant aspect of what we do, which is very unique to what Bonnie and I, the conversations that we're having online and the groups that we're doing. It's a very unique element that we have integrated into the Akashic Records work that we're doing. And what theta healing is a modality that taps into theta waves, which is a brain wave. If any of you are familiar with Reiki practitioners utilize alpha brain waves in order to access the energetic healing that they provide through their hands and through the work that they do. In theta, we actually access the theta brainwave, and just in simple terms, it's the brainwave that's used in hypnosis. So it actually allows the practitioner and the client to access belief systems at the subconscious level. And we work through divine source. Theta practitioners, we say that what we're doing is witnessing a healing. We don't actually do any kind of healings, anything like that. We witness a healing, and it's done through commands with the Creator. And it's downloads of programs that help to clean up belief systems that no longer serve us, replacing them with programs that are perfection, of the highest possible divine form that we can imagine. And so what we've done is that as we're accessing the wisdom from the Akashic Records, the masters, teachers, and loved ones who are the beings of light within the Akashic realm, they guide us on the theta downloads. I used to do theta and then go into the records, and now we're doing it the opposite way. We're going into the records first and then understanding what the group needs. So this is a good time to clarify that we are not doing individual readings here tonight, but you will be able to ask an individual question, and you can be as specific or as in general about the topic of conversation that we're having. So if you're experiencing a challenge, let's say one of the topics of conversation that we're having is about not enough money in life. How do we master having abundance financially? So if you are having a question about your own financial situation, it's okay to ask a question. When we open the records, the masters, teachers, and loved ones of this group will answer that question, but they're not going to answer it real specifically to you, because this is not a private environment. Now, if you were doing a reading with either Bonnie or myself, you would receive an answer that is very private and intimate to you. But since we're all here together, they will answer the question without revealing anything private. And you will receive the answer as you need to receive it, and everyone else in the group will benefit from that answer, and it's probably going to answer a question that you also have, that you were not the one that stood up and asked the question. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be beautiful, and Bonnie and I never know what's going to come out of the channelings that we do, which is part of the exciting thing. It's the funnest thing for us because we never know what's going to happen, and we've been used to doing these sessions on the phone with participants being able to raise their hand on a webcast, where they raise their hand, with, we click them, then we unmute them and we let them talk, And today, you're actually here in front of us, and so we'll actually be able to see your face, and then the group reading will be extremely beneficial to all of us. And what I have found is that even with my individual client sessions, I'm finding that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of that person are answering the question in a way that and Bonnie says this too also, wow, that answer could be for anybody, because as human beings, we have a lot in common. So put your seatbelts on, ladies and gentlemen, because this is going to be a very unique ride.